So when you would go out, would you go to colleges or
I would go to colleges,
Okay.
mainly colleges, Florida, California, North Carolina, South Carolina,
Mm-hmm.
wherever they had large uh, populations of physical
Mm-hmm.
scientists.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Would you go?
actually worked. I actually worked in the water resources department,
Mm.
and of course they had the geologists. That was a separate department. So I recruited for hydrologists mainly.
Wow. And how long were you with them?
Total almost 30 years.
Really?
Yeah.
Always in HR,
Always in HR.
in recruiting, or
Actually, when I arrived at the Geological Survey, I ended up in the Water Resources Division.
Mm.
And I wasn't in HR at the very beginning. I was in a data section, but then I moved over into HR. At that point, I had a degree too, so
Yeah.
that helped a little bit.
Well, sure,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Wow. And so, what was your wife doing all this time?
She was teaching.
Was she teaching?
She taught. Her first position was in Prince George's County.
Mm.
Then we got married, and she ended up coming to Jefferson County. And she taught here for over 20 years and was recruited to teach in Frederick County, Maryland. And so she was down there about 18 years in Frederick County. So she has, maybe a little wrong here, about 38 years teaching.
Okay. I'm going to jump back a little bit. I wanted to talk to you about when you were in Page Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
You were in the last year in the building,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
So, let's see. Jim Taylor, was he still coaching or still teaching then?
He was teaching and coaching.
Yeah, teaching it. His wife was teaching too, right?
She
Or
was
was
teaching
she-
in the elementary school.
In the elementary school.
And I guess it would have been Wright Denny.
That's what it was.
And my wife taught with her.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And later on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the one thing we've talked about with from Jim and everybody. So Brown versus Board was 53-54,
54,
right?
yeah.
But here, it sounds like at some point around 60-61 there was a choice.
Not really.
Yeah.
It's not a choice, because I remember that part well. Around 61, 62, something like that. I'm not sure. It's a little hazy right now. But they started moving some of the black children over into Charlestown High School. And in the first group, the reason I remember it well is because my brother went over.
Really?
He and Sam Taylor, which is Jim Taylor's brother. And I think it was a couple of girls that went over. But it was only like 5 or 6 children that went over their first year. So he might have went over in his 10th grade year. And maybe a year or so later, I thought this was quite unusual, and I still think it's unusual. I was interviewed by the superintendent, Mr. Laurie. He interviewed me and several other kids. And for some reason or another, we weren't moved over to the high school. Don't know. Maybe. I don't know what was going on. I was too young to even think about it. Actually, probably didn't even want to leave my friends anyway. You know, I was comfortable where I was. So I guess I wasn't too disappointed. But thinking back over the years, there had to be something going on. So
And what grade were you in then?
I was probably in the 10th grade, something like that, 10th or 11th. You know, you're in a school that you want to graduate from that school. And my brother probably wanted to graduate from that school too. But he went over to the Charlestown. I know because he even comes to our reunion now, my reunion.
Really?
He feels a closeness to that to Paige Jackson
Mm-hmm.
because he was there so long.
There was from what I've heard and talked to, obviously I wasn't there, but the sense of community in Paige Jackson may have been different than.
Very strong. Parent involvement. The teachers, of course, they lived in the community. They went to church in the community, so they got to see the parents. So you better be careful in how you act in school because you would hear it in the grocery store,
Mm-hmm.
at church, someplace, in clubs. They had clubs back then,
Mm-hmm.
and so you better be on your P's and Q's.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Have you ever wondered why they chose particular students? I may have heard this multiple times, and people have different opinions, and whether they were athletes, whether they weren't athletes, whether they were.
I was an athlete.
Were you an athlete?
I was an athlete. It may have been something like that. But some of these children that were interviewed along with me, they were really good athletes too.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't consider myself a really good athlete, but that might have been the case. And of course, during that time, Paige Jackson didn't play the local schools. Didn't have competition with Shepherdstown and Hoppers Ferry and those schools like that. We had to go out of the county to Virginia, mainly Virginia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess talking with Mr. Mickey too is that he was very aware how some of the resources were different between the schools.
Definitely resources were. We didn't just thinking about the athletic department.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, Mr. Taylor, Jim Taylor, he had a strong connection with Shepherd. He had friends over there, and so we might have had equipment that wasn't up to par, and Shepherd would provide some of their equipment, and he said he had a good relation. Henry B. Davenport also was a good friend to Jim Taylor, and he was really interested in pole vaulting and track and field, and he would come down and work with Mr. Taylor with the track because I was on the track team, so I know he was there.
Did Mr. Davenport, did he have a pit out at his?
Yes, he did. Pole vault pit.
Pole vault pit.
And then he also worked with Jefferson High School for a while. And I know that for a fact because my nephew is Craig Hunter, and he was head track coach. I think he's still a head track coach.
Yeah. Jim had talked about how much help, I guess, and
Yeah.
how much support that he got from Mr. Davenport.
And in talking with Mr. Taylor, he talked about how helpful T. Larry was. On a number of cases, I would talk with him, and he would say that, you needed money for to take the kids to Virginia to play ball or something like that, and Mr. Larry would find the funds within the budget to make sure it happened.
Yeah.
Mainly, that's the conversations I would have with Mr. Taylor after I was older.
Yeah. With the changes among the schools during that time, it's almost like a bittersweet change because obviously you want everybody going have equal facilities and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I know, talking to some of those families, that was bittersweet moving from there and losing what you were talking about, those relationships with the teachers and the community and things like that.
See, as far as facilities and what we had at Paige Jackson, we didn't realize that we didn't have what the other schools had. We didn't have a cafeteria. There was no cafeteria there. They had bake sales and stuff like that, but mainly you brought your own lunch, and but didn't seem bad at that time. The lunch from home was pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
It's what you
Yeah.
wanted to eat.
That's what you wanted to eat.
Yeah. So,
That's right.
and as far as the books and things like that, of course, you know, later on we found out, the school the books had, stamps in them. We were getting hand me downs and things like that, but we learned.
Mm-hmm.
We learned in those schools with those books, with those hand me down books.
Yeah.
I mean.
So you were at the survey. How did you get connected with the bank?
Oh, the bank. Oh. Of course, I was on the Board of Education for a little while.
Yeah, when did that? When?
Yeah.
No, it's okay. Year wise.
I wish I could tell you the year.
Yeah.
But I was on the Jim Mickey.
Mm-hmm.
I ran against him
Mm-hmm.
with other folks. I didn't make it. And actually, let me back up a little bit. George Rediford and Jim Talbert, they're the two that encouraged me, highly encouraged me, to run for the board because I'd been involved in the school system as a home run father. My wife teaching in the system, when it was time to have conferences, I would go to the conference because she had to meet parents herself because my kids went to the same school. So I was the one. So I made a joke one time. I said, they sent a paper home about home run mothers. And I said, I'll mark out home run mothers, but dad. And they accepted it. So I ended up being a home run father.
So what were your duties as a home run father?
Home run father, when they had special things, I would bring some cookies or whatever in that my wife would make, and and go in and read to the children, things like that, and so it was kind of fun, but I really wasn't serious about it.
When you scribbled that out. Put it
Yeah,
in.
and then after that, I ended up being PTA president with Bill Willingham. I don't know if you know him, but he was the one of the principals, and Mr. Ritchie. He was at my wife's school, and so I was the president of both schools, and I had a vice president that should have been the president because I was out of town, going down to Geological Survey in Reston. That sometimes during the day they needed somebody, and I was too far away, so she handled most of the day-to-day duties, but I was I don't want to call myself a figurehead, but mainly that's what I was, and then so I had that experience, and Mr. Talbert and Rutherford, they said, you ought to run for the board. I don't want to run for the Board of Education. Well, I think you should.
Who was the first black member of the board? You were the second, right?
Mr. Fleming. I think there was one other person that filled in before even Mr. Fleming. But Mr. Fleming was the one that I remember mostly. QD Fleming. And then so I didn't make the cut when I ran for the board, and then of course Mickey, I went to work on his farm. I think he might have did some teaching then too, and so they went down to the next highest vote getter. Of course, you had to apply for it, even though you were the next highest vote getter, and get a couple of letters of references and things like that. So that I was appointed to the board. And Mr. Manzik, I don't know if you remember, Mr. Manzik was on the board at that time. And Mr. Doherty, I knew these guys. I knew them anyway. Doris Klein, she was on the board.
That's Pete Doherty, right?
Pete Doherty.
Yeah.
So we were on there together. We were a good close group. It's 5 of us, and so I was on for 1 year, and I forget who was vice president. And Mr. Manji came to me and said, "We want you to be vice president." I was only there for a year,
Oh.
and he said, "Okay." Vice, that means you don't have to do as much. But during that time, Pete Doherty traveled a lot. He worked for the government too.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to run the meeting. So I got to know, West Virginia law pretty good.
Yeah.
And so I ran the meetings quite a
So
bit.
what were the issues facing the board at that time?
Just mainly, there was some building programs going on during that time.